Yo, 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 welcome to another episode of the Goodman Factory. I have to be honest, this is the third time I've had to do this. But listen, I'm going to introduce myself as the host, Manny. I've got my boy here, Mike, and I've got Ade. We've also got Goodman Malik. They're on the visuals doing his thing. Before we start, just want to make sure you guys use our discount code, which is GPOD1. So if you go onto the Goodman Factory website, use GPOD1 to have access to all our discount codes for all of our products. So today's session, we're going to be discussing growing up in the internet era, what it was like for us as 90s babies, and some of the websites and things that we were using at the time, i.e. MSN, showing our age, Bebo, MySpace, High Five. So I'm going to start off with you, Mike. Go back into history, big throwback. So what was it like growing up in the internet era for you?
Interesting, I'd say. Very interesting. I was part of the MSN, to start off with, MSN era, and it led on to like the MySpace and the Bebo. Even though I didn't have a MySpace myself, I knew friends that had MySpace and all the rest of it. I think I just made a page, but I didn't do anything on it. It was just almost to look. But I had High Five, I had Bebo, I had MSN. It was just so mad. So I think if I'm saying this correctly, you had to share your email to have MSN Messenger, didn't you? Was it email?
Yeah, it was email,
Microsoft.
Hotmail account, I think.
Yeah.
Imagine how awkward is that? Because if someone asks me for my email now, it's strictly business.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me for my email, bro?
It's
Like,
true.
I have a number, or even now I'll say, or here's my Insta. Even sometimes if it's for
business
or something.
opportunities, yeah.
So them times as basically kids in school, what's your email? So I can MSN, I can give you the MSN so we can talk on MSN kind of thing. But it was interesting because I still remember the first ever thing because I had broadband. The thing was slow as hell. It was proper slow. And I remember the first time at my auntie's house when we got broadband, actually, it was dial-up.
Yeah.
It made that weird noise.
Mm-hmm.
And weirdly enough, the first video I ever watched was Usher caught up. You know how long it took the video to load up? It was like 45 minutes.
No way.
And the video's what, 4 minutes? 3 minutes and a half? And I sat there patiently waiting 45 minutes. Didn't even have a snack.
That's a terrible return on
Imagine.
investment.
And then obviously after that, obviously you got into the MSNs and all the rest of it. And I couldn't wait. So I'm seeing these people for 6 hours of my day, then running, like sprinting home, skidding, not even taking off my uniform, sweating to get on MSN.
Start talking.
Come on, man. Give them space. As one would say, give them. But my mum didn't even know I was using MSN, you know?
She didn't.
She didn't understand about safeguarding kids from internet, obviously. She didn't even know how to use the internet. Even now, she struggles a little bit with the internet.
Yeah.
But she's way better now. But she doesn't know. She didn't know at the time. And obviously, me and my brother just pulled the wool over our eyes. Like, oh, Mum, there's nothing to worry about. It's just MSN, and I'm just talking to my friend. Sometimes these people you don't even know, they're random people that are speaking to you, and you think, how did they get my email and all the rest of it? But
And that's how it would have worked, right? Someone would have had to have given someone else your email.
Yeah,
And then they
I
would
think
add your email.
yeah,
And then you can accept the friend, right?
Yeah,
Or did
I
they
don't-
just automatically become your
I don't know.
friends if
It's
they
not
add
like,
you?
It's not like house party where you can jump into a room with your friends. I don't think it was like that, where you could jump into a room with your friends.
No,
and then
no.
add someone
They
else
would
that's
just-
in the room
I think they could just add you.
for getting your information from
Yeah, like
someone
they
else.
have to put it in somewhere. They add you. But I'm trying to remember, did we have to accept someone's...
I think you had to accept it.
You probably accepted to
think-
see who it was.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And
then
then
you
you'd
was a
have,
weirdo,
and
you
then
just delete it.
you would have like your contact list. You'd click one, it'll take you into like a chat room,
Yeah.
and then you chat, and then later on it was like video chat as well.
Yeah. Start
yeah.
talking to that babes from school that you...
That's how you started showing game.
You've been waiting, you've been waiting to speak to since 3 o'clock when the bell went.
Literally. It's mad, man. But yeah, I had a Bebo as well. That was hilarious. Those are the first times where you could share loves. Was it loves? And then there's some people with hundreds of loves, and I think I had like 5. And I was proper jealous. I was like, why is everyone, what's going on? Am I not paying?
Do you know
That's
what?
what I used to think.
That's
I
really
was
mad,
butters
you
as
know.
well.
It's never really dawned on me that, like, one, some of the things that we kind of like focus on now in terms of like how people are addicted to social media and how people are genuinely affected by the kind of popularity aspect of social media, like in particular, like something like Instagram, where you kind of like really focus on how many likes you get, how many views you get. It didn't really dawn on me that we were probably doing that even from the days of Bebo or MySpace. Because I actually remember that, although I don't remember using the site for that long, I actually remember seeing certain people have more loves or whatever it is. I'm thinking like, like, what do I need to do to like
to
get to that point? Like, how can I also be as popular as them? And you start taking stupid photos with your hat backwards or whatever you was doing with your Avrex jacket back in the day.
Or burning your uncle's one.
yeah, just to try and get a cool picture. So it's just funny how things haven't really changed, but that was the very beginning of like the internet era for us.
Yeah, man. Do you remember BB Pin as well?
Yes.
Oh man, I never had one. So I got one for my girlfriend at the time and my younger brother. And I thought I can't be part of this where I succumb to being like everyone else and just being addicted to my phone. That's why I didn't get one. But then in the end, I thought, oh, come on, man. You have to get the WhatsApps. You have to get the, the contact numbers. You have to get the rest of it. I still didn't get BB Pin though. Even when it came on iPhone, I think it was an app on iPhone at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still didn't get it.
That was the beginning of the end of BlackBerry.
Really?
Literally.
Because that was the main thing a lot of people were going there for that private messaging service. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once WhatsApp and even instant messages on iPhone just blew up, and then
BB
but
Pin.
literally once BB came on iPhone, disappeared.
Completely redundant.
Yeah. But I remember I think 99% of the population, I was part of the 1% that didn't have a BlackBerry BB Pin.
I had a BB. I remember that.
Did you?
I think
I had a BB. Yeah.
So for me, I'm thinking about like the differences in our cohorts. I think the main difference for me is MSN became mobile for us. I think that was like growing up. I realized, looking back now, I think that was the big pivotal. Like before, you had to be in a certain location next to the big computer with the back off to chat to these people and engage in it. So and when your parents say go to bed, you leave it there.
Yeah.
And if you're not at home, you leave it there.
Yeah, your status would be away.
Yeah.
Or something.
Whereas it became a thing where even before Blackberries, even when the Sony Ericssons were getting better and things like that, and the sliding phones would were coming up, you could then have MSN on your phone. And for us, that was like, okay, it changed the game because now you're messaging people in class.
Yeah.
You're doing things like that. And then when Blackberries came in, that was it. I think that was the beginning of people that was the first time I actually realized it's possible to be addicted to your phone. I was. And I probably wouldn't have got over it if I didn't get in trouble in school and my mum confiscated my phone. And then I realized, wow, like, I really want my phone. Like, I didn't have a phone that was this good before. And I was okay, but I really want my phone back. Like I felt it physically. And then I also felt getting to the point where I was just like, I didn't really care anymore. I'd gotten over the FOMO of everyone else having their phone. And then when I got it back, I didn't use it for like a month after getting it back. I was like, okay, cool, I'm over it. But that was the first time I realized I'm attached to this thing now. Where I feel like for a lot of other people, maybe they weren't fortunate to have that realization in like year 9.
Yeah.
So for them, it might have, persisted. But that's when I think that's like the pivotal moment where, because it's all communication, but then you would have bent your day towards those communication points. But that still meant that most of your day could have been without it.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, your whole day has it, so it doesn't even feel like you're bending your day towards it anymore. It just feels like a constant. Like you wouldn't leave your house without your phone now. Whereas before, you could, and you could still get about. There are a few numbers you remember. There are a few people that know roughly what your day is going to be like. You would get on with your day. Whereas now, it's almost on everything. Whether you drive, whether you need to buy something, whether you need to go on the bus.
You need it.
If you have notes for something, you have paperwork saved. It's like it's ubiquitous to life now almost.
Yeah, that's crazy. Even when I think about like phones and stuff, I don't think I had a phone until the age of 11, 12.
What's your first phone?
It was like a Nokia 3210 or something.
The green one.
Yes, like that kind of like turquoise kind of.
Oh yeah,
that kind of.
It's still got 1 bar of battery, by the way. I'm
really
100% sure that's still got 1 bar of battery.
That to me, those were the days of like the strong phones as well. Like the proper, like I could smash this phone on your head right now. Your head's gonna be damaged, but my phone's gonna be completely
Won't
fine.
even have a scratch.
Throw it on the floor. it's gonna be
It'll bounce back
proper
into your
good.
hands.
There was one in particular. It was a Nokia phone that you could slide up. What was that?
with
phone?
the red on the
65?
side.
I think so, like a kind of burgundy
Yeah,
type.
that was a decent.
But it's just
Wait.
funny because like phones for me in school weren't like, it wasn't like a, it's not even that it wasn't a priority. My parents were just very clear, like, you don't need a phone. And
100%.
my life kind of operated in a way where a phone wasn't necessary.
Necessary,
So if I wanted to go out, for instance, after school, it was more a matter of, yo, you're going to be at home later on. Yeah, you need to come over like 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's when my mum's going to be home. And I'm just going to walk over to your house. And that's that. There was no kind of
communication, yeah.
the communication was literally just us talking about, you're going to be at home? Yeah, I'm going to be at home. Cool.
I think one thing that's gone is people don't have to be as trustworthy anymore.
Yeah.
Now that, like,
Bro.
if I see you at 4 o'clock, you have to be there at 8. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be
Yeah.
there. There is,
100%.
I can't, if I get there and you're not there, I just have to be sad and go home.
Yeah.
That's
Literally.
a fantastic point as well. That's a
It's true,
fantastic
though.
point. That's a
Be
fantastic
sad and go
point.
home, boy. But the thing is, we'll rarely let down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Why
people
is
had
that?
to be.
You had to be
Because you knew.
the ends was waiting for you, Mike, to be there at 4 o'clock. If you're not there at 4 o'clock and everyone leaves because you're not there,
It's peak.
don't even talk to us.
It's peak.
Even though you can't call us anyway and tell us and for us to cuss you down the phone, we're still gonna be upset with you. Because when we see you next time, it's gonna be like, man, you let the whole crew down. We need you to do there, whether it's for football, whether it's for arcade, whether it's for cinema. Come on, man.
It's true.
And them times you couldn't even call your boy and say,
Yeah.
it's because mum's being a bit, you know what, I didn't wash the plates.
Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
true.
Must not leaving the house.
And that's kind of what it is in terms of being able to trust people. I think it's knowing that actually I could take the mick a little bit, because if I'm going to be 10, 15, 20 minutes late, I can always just message and just kind of blag or whatever. Whereas
Become
those
lazy.
times, you know for a fact that if I'm not there for 4 o'clock, that person is going to leave the park, or, you know, they're not going to be waiting for me at the cinema. So I need to be there. And I think that,
You'll break your back to get there.
yeah,
Fact.
you had no choice but to do that. And it's funny, I don't think, did you guys used to like use your house phones to ring? That's what I used to do as well. Like,
Rarely, but yeah.
like not often, but I would use the house phone, and even that.
Yeah.
It's weird how house phones have just really become redundant.
They're just
in
there
the home.
for the broadband.
Because when mobile phones came out and they became something that we were using like as like, you know, our go-to kind of gadget, house phone, it became so redundant that there would be days where it would just be ringing, and I didn't even have to hear my mum say, "Oh, leave the phone alone." Everybody just knew, leave the phone alone. Like, let it ring out, to the point where there was just no need for a house phone, full
Yeah.
stop. But if I did need to get through to someone, I would say, "Oh, by the way, you know, is Jermaine home today?" And they would say, "Yeah, Jermaine's at home." Cool, sweet, lock off. But there wasn't that reliance on me having to message him or kind of like WhatsApp him or anything. And I think it's just interesting how he was a lot more free
Yeah.
in school, free of
Yeah.
that kind of, I say it's a burden. I actually think phones are a burden.
Yeah, they are. We've become.
That's kind of what I was getting
we've
at.
become really lazy as well. Do you remember when you could remember 20 numbers, like all 11 digits, 20 numbers,
Yes.
and not get a digit wrong, and
Yeah.
still know what digits meant whose
Mhm.
number? So this means
Every
obviously
important person in my life, I could remember those 11 digits and I'd have no problem.
memorize
now-
it easy.
I don't even know my wife's number. I swear to you, the only number I know off by heart is my own number.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Only number I
A
know.
lot of people don't know that. Imagine I work in the bank here. When you're asking customers for their own contact number, their man don't know it. I don't call myself. I'm like, I know you don't call yourself, but if we're gonna give your number out, you need to have your own. You need to know your number, innit?
That's the bare minimum.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? The only number I know is literally my contact number and my mum's old number. I don't even know her new number. I don't know anyone else's number. You know?
I don't
It's
remember
so bad.
anything. Yeah.
Even the last four, I've done this thing where I started remembering the last 4 digits of numbers. Even that's gone.
myth.
So when people say to me, "Oh, is your number, I don't know, what 073, I don't know where it is," yeah, I'll be like, I have no idea, because you said it in such a way that I don't even know if that's my own number. I have to say it in a rhythm, yeah.
Mm.
And you saying the last 3 digits doesn't sound like the last 4 digits that I know, even if it is. You just add an extra number and I'm
Yeah.
completely thrown off.
Yeah, it's definitely made us lazy.
Yeah, 100%. Our memory's gone, like,
But-
in terms of numbers.
But aside from laziness as well, it's obviously made us very antisocial. That's the other.
That's what I disagree with.
Yeah, I think
think
it's.
so?
I think it's made. Do you know why I say I think it's made us antisocial? I'm going to ask you after why you think it's the opposite. From a personal point of view, even the basics of someone just talking to you. When was the last time you spoke to someone, or you watched a film with someone, and they haven't checked their phone within that period of time? Like, let's say for that hour
Oh,
of a film, or even just having a conversation. And the reason why I said that is like I speak to my wife. I do it. You're doing it now. Look at
Yeah.
look at him playing with his phone now. Like my wife will be speaking to me, for example, and I'll be scrolling on my tweets, like scrolling on my Twitter, sorry. And as I'm scrolling, I'm listening to what she's saying, and then something about Arsenal will come up, and immediately my attention is here. You should get that look of guilt on his face.
Why is that even on loud?
Look at him. We're literally talking about being distracted by your phone. This guy's watching videos.
That's so bad.
But there you go. That was basically what I was going to allude to. Thank you for my TED talk.
Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing.
But literally, he literally just summed up what I was just about to say. We get distracted way too easily, and I think that's what makes us antisocial. Even in social settings, I think we don't.
In the rave,
Even in social settings, where
where we're holding up, we're not even caring about enjoying the moment. It's about, I want everyone else that's not here to know
see
that I'm in a party, half enjoying myself, even if it's a dead rave.
enjoying
Because I've seen
yourself.
some of my friends and I cussed them after. I'll be like, bro, that rave looked dead, but you tried to make it look live. You're the
Why?
only one that was dancing. Why are you trying to make it look live? If it's dead, it's dead. And you don't need to record it, but it's just become a norm. It's become the norm now where everyone does the selfie with the hand up in the air, with the phone in their hand, showing maybe 2 or 3 man, and there's always one drunk guy that's burping in your eye.
which is another thing altogether, not enjoying the moment. But in terms of it being an antisocial or something that encourages antisocial behavior, I'm interested for Ade to kind of explain why he thinks that's not the case.
Yeah, actually, I want to hear this.
I don't think it's antisocial. The reason being is probably how I'm measuring social interaction. And because of that, I think it's hyper social, and that's also a problem. So I don't think it's like, oh, like everything's fine or better. I think it's a case of hyper social interaction. And that's why people are recording videos instead of enjoying the moment, because they are engaging in a social. They're going to share it with a society.
Others, yeah.
They're like a microcosm of society. It's still a social interaction.
Fair.
Like when you're on Twitter, most people aren't following nobody. They're following at least 1 or 2 people and interacting with those people in their microcosm of society. So it's still a social interaction. That's why I would say it's not that people are withdrawing from social interactions. They're becoming less personable because they're having less in-person social interactions. And that's why you might be talking to someone and they're on their phone, because that's an impersonable thing. You shouldn't do that in the middle of an in-person interaction.
Like I just did.
But you will, because that's
Shame on you.
But you will, because that's now the norm of social interaction. Now we do more social interaction online generally, not everyone, but generally. So it would logically follow that you would prioritize that now.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a good way to correct it. You're right. Actually, it doesn't make us antisocial. I've just learned a new word. It makes us hyper
social.
You need to make sure you copyright that word.
Yeah.
It makes us hyper.
Is that a real thing? Is that a real word?
I'm using the word hyper in its
Because
normal,
of,
in its normal trait. It's
But
a hyphen.
It probably is.
word.
It probably is a thing.
But it makes sense. You're right, because when you think about the word antisocial, is I would imagine the definition would be, something along the lines of to not engage with people
others.
or communicate with people. When actually it's the opposite. When I'm talking to you or when you're talking to someone, what we're doing instead is we're communicating and engaging with other people who aren't with you on Twitter or on Instagram, as opposed to actually kind of embracing the moment that you're having now. And I think that's why when I said it makes you antisocial, I think it's more like in that very moment, you're not being sociable with me, you're being antisocial, but it's because somewhere else you're being
Very
hypersocial,
And I think it's an interesting thing, because it's one thing I've been thinking about in terms of how that changes the habits that are necessary to survive in like, if the dynamic of a social interaction is now changed from in-person to mostly online, the rules of engagement will also change.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm realizing is that people are kind of drifting into like different realms now when it comes to like their expectations in social settings, their expectations of other people, and the reasons behind that. I've just started to notice there's a lot of, because people don't meet more in person, they meet more online. There's almost like, and because of the rules of engagement of online interactions, there's like a personality that you have online, and it's a summation of that little drip that you're putting there, here and there, and that's what people have constructed, and that's what they're talking to. They're not really talking to you.
Yeah.
So that creates like a dissociation between the real person that's talking and the person that is being presented, and you're kind of aware of it.
Yeah.
Like if you it's like there's an image you want to portray, or there is a conscious effort not to portray an image. Either way, you don't do that in person.
Yeah.
I got a question. Go on.
So I was just going to say, I try my hardest to be as, or is the word I'm looking for, organic. Try to be
Authentic?
as original, authentic, all those words
But that's my
as
point.
possible.
That's my point. Yeah.
And still,
Like in person, when you're just having a conversation with someone, is one of the thoughts in your mind, oh, let me be authentic. Probably not.
nah,
But online it is. And that already, you're
Yeah.
already behaving different.
fair.
In the grand scheme of things, then how detrimental do you think that is? Looking at the bigger picture, if you've got, you know, what like 7.8 billion people in the world or something. If you've got like a lot of people, let's say, I'm not even going to say a number. If you've got a lot of people around the world who are now giving everybody else a fragment of what they really are, because we know now that social media is kind of like the platform in which we show, we show our personality or something that is kind of like a make-up personality. How detrimental is that then to the world or to us, do you think? If we're kind of focusing more on this social media presence, this social media personality, whether we know that we're doing it or not, there's clearly a lot more focus on what we look like and how we present on the internet. How detrimental do you think that is, or is it detrimental at all?
I think it's already happening in that the biggest detriment is that your online persona becomes more valuable than your real in-person like characteristics and who you are in person. I think it's already like there are people who live in like terrible places, but they figured out how to take that good picture from that right angle, and they are making thousands a month promoting people on Instagram with it because they have a large following. I watched a episode of a TV show where the girl was pretending to be someone else, and the account that she was using to pretend was earning so much that she was sending someone hundreds of pounds a day. So the online, no one cares who she is in person. No one that's following her knows who she is in person.
But
That doesn't matter.
So she was pretending to be somebody else.
And that account was making money.
That's mad.
That online persona, that isn't a real person. It's a picture of one person and the characteristics of another person
So
merged
basically
to
it's a catfish.
Yeah, and that was making money. That was seen as valuable by the people that were following it. People were keeping up with it. People wanted that account to promote them. No one cared that it wasn't that person.
But I was gonna, but so the question was, how
Do that
detrimental is that? Within the answer that you've just given, you've kind of actually highlighted the fact that actually people have become successful from their online personas. Because in this age that we're living in now, some of the most successful people that we come across on a regular basis are, the YouTubers, the influencers. They've used this new tool that's come out in the last 10, 15, 20 years to kind of like build businesses, kind of like build stuff for themselves. But a lot of the time, especially, according to what you was just saying now, a lot of the time they have given us a fake personality or a personality that's not necessarily authentic. It's more of their online image. But that online image has now clearly become more important than whatever their authentic self is. So it's made a lot of people money. It's made them a lot of success. Does that then not kind of encourage more people, more younger people, to focus more on what they look like, what their best picture looks like, what their angle looks like, what content they're putting out, as opposed to them focusing on what their authentic self is? I don't know.
I think in terms of it being a detriment or being detrimental to, should we say, society, I think a lot of people have become empty vessels. So they're making these profiles. Yeah, you're very successful from it. You're making a lot of money, or is making you feel like you can express yourself in a certain way. But you're having this false sense of, almost a false sense of reality, I would say. But when you take that, when you switch it off now, some people can't remember, some people can't switch off from the internet or from social media. So now when you do have to get away from it, you become this empty person because you put so much of your almost your life and your fake self into that thing, which is basically a phone and social media. Once the phone dies, I've seen some people go into actual panic attacks. like genuine. I've got 1%. You ever seen when people get to the 1%?
Yeah. Trust
The
me.
1% people, and they start
They're
looking
close
like
to
they're gonna-
home for me.
Literally, it's crazy, and I think I get it. I've always tried to wean myself. So I have times where I used to be almost like spokesperson. You know what? I'm not addicted to my phone, but at times you do feel like I just want that extra. You know what I mean? I just want to do something extra on my phone. So I have times where I have time away from my phone. I'll give myself a week away from social media. I'll delete the apps, or I'll just make sure I make a conscious effort to not touch any of the apps like Instagram and all the rest of it. But at the same time, man, I think it's become this thing where people are really putting their whole like blood, sweat and tears and their whole soul into social media. And now when it comes to interacting with real people now, you forgot how to make eye contact, you forgot how to shake, you forgot how to greet people or even hold a conversation. That's why a lot of people that genuinely, let's say, meet me for the first time or have met me a few times, they're like, oh, like it's refreshing to meet someone that genuinely talks. I'm like, what? Who do you meet that doesn't talk to you? They're like, you'd be surprised. A lot of people nowadays forget how to hold a conversation or forget how to express themselves or articulate themselves in a certain way, or just forget how to be human beings. And I find that kind of weird and scary, but it is reality. I feel like people pump way too much into social media. Yeah, I'm one of them. By the way.
You think that you pump too much into social media?
And nowadays, I want people to see what I'm doing. Even today, you see, I put timestamps and locations of where. Why does everyone need to know that? How do I know that everyone wants to know where? But at the same time, I try to almost maybe let's say convince myself that if I do certain things and show certain people certain things, they can do it as well. Because I've come from literally like very humble beginnings. Like nothing was ever. Even now, it's not easy. Life is not easy, but I know there's people out there. And I basically, I used to look at the internet and look at social media and think, I wish someone like me or someone that represents someone like me was on the internet. You know what I mean? But there was never someone like that. So I wanted someone, I just wanted to be this guy. So maybe almost like a character. I want to be this guy that is personable. People can understand him. People can relate to him. And he still enjoys himself. And he doesn't splash millions because he doesn't have millions, but he still enjoys his life. He still enjoys. I'm trying to almost include the way I am in real life on the internet, if that makes sense. The way I am with my son is genuinely how I am with my son. The way I make banks with my mum and even take the mick out of my mum sometimes is how I am in real life. So I know a lot of people don't do things because the internet won't approve of that, but I do things because that's what I want to do and that's what I do in real life. But again, that's still an element of me just
taking the onus and
putting too much into the internet, if that makes sense.
But I think what's key though with what you said though is that you're conscious.
Yeah,
like
I try to be.
You're conscious of the fact that actually I'm putting a lot into this, but this is the reason why. Whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's justified or not, you know, whether there's any kind of like positive outcome from the end of it, it's different. But I think what's important is that you're saying, I know why I'm doing it. I'm not just doing this because I'm a zombie now and I'm just plugged into my phone and I'm not aware of what I'm doing. And I think that's probably where I have my biggest concern. So as a teacher, I'm teaching young people who have been born into a society that is just completely obsessed with social media. As in, from the minute that they're born, social media in some way or form impacts their life, whether it's because their parents, who maybe might be similar age to myself, have the camera in their face from the minute they've come out of the womb, just like, hey, like, welcome to the world, everyone, see my baby here. You get it. It's unavoidable for them. And so when they get to the point where they themselves have access to, you know, the internet and to gadgets that have access to the internet, which is very young, by the way, as in like 2-year-olds now can operate a phone or an iPad better than I can.
Yeah, my son was doing that.
What I'm seeing now as a teacher is young people who are incredibly addicted. If I could look up the definition for addiction, I'm sure it definitely it defines what I see in my classroom a lot. As in, if you take away the iPad from a child, he is having the biggest meltdown. Some of the issues that he's having, that's, you know, the reason why he hates home and the reason why he hates his mum is because his mum told him he had to get off the PlayStation at 10 o'clock at night. And you're like,
Imagine.
bro, like I didn't even
That's-
have the PlayStation at that time. Like,
Fam.
you know, I was suffering with Dreamcast, and even then there was kind of boundaries that were set around the weekend. So like their whole life already is just kind of like immersed in the internet, social media, like, and I think my biggest concern is, one, there's the safeguarding aspect of it, in that they themselves don't understand what safeguarding is, and it's not really their responsibility, it's the responsibility of their parents. But then their parents, some of them are quite a bit older than us, and some of them are around our age. They haven't necessarily been educated, I don't think, to safeguard their children on the internet. So I'm coming up with I'm seeing a lot of cases where, you know, a child will come in and we're having breakfast and he'll talk about this person that he's speaking to on his game. And by the end of that conversation, you're like, I think you might be speaking to some old guy. And some of the children are like kind of shrewd enough to be like, yo, like, but where did he add you from? And like, are you sure that's really, you know, who you think you're talking to? And this child will be like, no, that's my friend. That's my friend. I've had them for 2 or 3 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
and then, you know, before you know it, I'm having to write safeguarding forms, but it's happening so often that I think that's it just reminds me, it's such a big difference from how we were like, not how we were raised, but like what we were born into. We were kind of born into it, and we kind of like had the slow progression of the internet, and, you know, it wasn't so much in our faces. We could use it, we might not use it. If you had access to a phone, it's more so because your mum or dad wanted to give you a phone, or because they could afford it, whatever. Where it's now, it's almost like it's a given.
Yeah.
You're going to have some access to an iPad, to a Mac, to a
sort of
phone,
screen,
to
yeah.
some kind of screen, and parents use it as a way to kind of distract their child. But then
Pacify them.
I've also seen parents themselves completely like neglect their child because they're just so immersed on whatever they're doing on their phone, to the point where they're walking with their child outside of the school, and they're like almost walking into cars that are driving into the gates because they've got phones in their hands, and I don't know who they're messaging or texting, but it's clearly more important than looking out.
Well, your child's safety. Yeah.
So it's just like, in many different ways, I've seen how it's kind of like really negatively impacted not just the younger generation, but also like our generation. And although I see the positives of it, I think the one thing that's missing is like education around how we can, one, safeguard the young people, but then I think also, two, how we can kind of like do what you're doing in that sense, and be conscious of like why we use it, how we use it, and also have a tool or have strategies to kind of like help yourself not kind of get bogged down in the negative things that come with social media. But I've got a feeling the way Ade's looking at me, he's like, nah, man, the internet is the best thing that's ever happened to us.
It's not. So basically, a few things that I just wanted to point out from what you were saying. First of all, we're now in a realm where children are going to start to interact with and learn about the world through screens. That's how they're going to learn about it. It's not books anymore, and it's not through conversations with parents. They're going to learn everything from their ABCs to colors to how to code to how to. It's all going to be screens. So for us, online gaming might not have been the biggest thing, so that the element of community wasn't as much. But for them, they like, it's not a screen. Like, it's a portal of association. It's now associated with the community that they're connected to. So when it's now taken away, you're not taking away a game. You're taking away all my friends. You're taking away this. You're taking away what would have been a youth club. It would be as painful as if you were going to the local youth club. You have all your friends there. You go there regularly. That's where there's a PlayStation or there's like table tennis or whatever. And now suddenly your mum's like, you're not going. You're like, that's going to hurt you. It's a mixture of that plus the feeling of like, they're still humans. So they're still going to feel a possessive kind of connection to their devices as well. That multiplies that whole pain of I've been cut off. I'm an island. I'm by myself in this room. So I think there's that element to, not to cancel out what you were saying, but to also just remember, like, and places like Twitter it's a place. Like, it's not a device. It's not an app anymore. That's where you go to meet your friends now.
Or even business or work opportunities.
Exactly.
Like,
So it's now, and I think the interesting thing about all these things is like, the human brain is not. It wasn't designed to deal with that. It wasn't designed to deal with the consequences of. I don't have that many followers, but if I tweet something, my brain isn't designed to deal with 2,000 odd other opinions challenging me or being able to. It's not designed for that. It's going to be overwhelmed. It's not designed for the types of consequences that come from. I can have a conversation with my friend and slip up, and he can correct me. And my human brain is designed for that. It can be done in a community. It can be done in a village. It can be done in a household. When it's done on stage, almost, it's not designed to deal with that much scrutiny that's that intense all at once through a medium that you feel so connected. Like, so now the negatives are coming from the same place that you associate your community with, and your brain isn't designed to deal with that type of complexity coming from that. It's not meant to be all clumped up like that. And that's another thing that we forget. Like, these are not the natural ways that humans communicate. So even though like there's benefits and stuff, and even though there are caveats to remember, like these are places now, these are connections and all those things. It's also, it's one thing because I hate phones. I've said it in the past podcast as well. I don't like using phones to communicate. I want to communicate with you in person. If I'm on Twitter, that's verbal diarrhea for me. If you chime in, you chime in. Cool. We can have a small exchange. But if there's a conversation to have, let's book a time in. What's your schedule like? What's the next 14 days like for you?
Do this.
Let's sit down.
In person though.
Yeah, as in we're going to be in person. In this quarantine time, it's been harder because I just haven't seen people. I've tried to do some video stuff instead. But I'm not for a textual conversation or phone calls. It's going to be in person. I value that interaction so much. And I think the reason is because, and for the two of you as well, I still have memories of what life was like
Without
before all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just prefer that.
Yeah.
And because
we know what it's like to actually have.
It's better for me. I do prefer that as well. I would definitely agree. People do. I can't. I feel like I can't. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't articulate myself sometimes that well through text, or it just becomes long. There's certain things that I want to say, and I start losing my train of thought because I can't type as fast as my brain is thinking. If I speak it now, I can definitely do that. And if I do that in person, it's even better. Video is not that bad, but I still want to feel that interaction with you. I want to see your face. I want to see your body language. I want to see you for who you are, if that makes sense. So I definitely agree with that. I wouldn't say I hate phones. I wouldn't go that far.
hate them. Oh my God.
But I get it. I understand the idea behind it in what you're saying. I was going to say maybe subject still on a similar topic. What age do you think? So if you had a child now, do you think it's the right thing to get your child involved in screens or social media, or do you think it's just that's a no-go? You don't do that until you're a teenager, for example.
I think at least until you're 7, like a large part of your brain forms by that point. That would be my reasoning, just to allow the brain to develop in a more natural kind of space. And also because I can't, and this is someone who's not a parent, up until the age of 7, I can't imagine you I can't imagine your quality of life would be drastically lower if you weren't surrounded by screens. That would be but also the brain development thing as well.
I was going to say, this is where I had some sort of rift between me and my son's mum, because I was going to seem like the grumpy parent, because I was like, he doesn't need a tablet and he doesn't need a Switch. I never got any of those when I was 7. I think I just about got trainers, mate. Before that, I think I was barefoot everywhere. Like, you know what I mean?
Fresh boy.
The guy's literally got a tablet. Sometimes he's playing them both at the same time. And I'm like, how a 6-year-old, how are you even doing that? And then he starts doing that thing where I tell him to calm down now. There's times where you can't be on it because you're panicking when you can't find a charger. So you need to go back to playing with your Action Man and all your other toys, like your Spider-Man. So it's hard, because one of the reasons I've heard from a lot of parents, and even people that don't have children, just you don't want them to miss out. Miss out on what though? Because I know it's a different time, different era, but we had our things, but everything was very safeguarded. Everything was, you can't do this. I feel like children nowadays just, if you're not going to give me that, then we're just going to have a fight then. You're going to fight me. Impossible. Like my son, at one point when you took his tablet off of him, the guy will have a tantrum. He never has a tantrum in front of me, but one time I think he forgot. He came from his mum. I picked him up. I took his iPad off him because it's late. Like it's like 8 o'clock, bro. You're meant to be sleeping. I know it's the weekend, but it's still late for you. The guy rolled on the floor, and I looked at him. I was like, "Me, you're rolling on the floor for me, because of tablet." I called his mum straight away. Said, "This guy's not touching the tablet for at least 2 weeks. There's no way he's doing rolls. I can hear his limbs hitting the floor. Impossible. I'll smash it. It was me and your mum that bought these things for you. I'll smash it. I don't mind losing money like that. There's no way. It can't be at your age. You're not even, like you're saying, you're not even 7 yet, and you're addicted to it that much. Nah, it can't be a thing. I don't care if you're missing out anymore. I don't want you to miss out, but at the same time, I don't think it's that detrimental to their development for them not being involved in social media or using a screen.
At some point.
The guy was 2 when he was using my iPad. I think it was 1.5 or even 1. The guy he knew when to swipe. When FaceTimes were coming through and messages were coming through, he'd just be looking at YouTube and he'd just get his little finger and swipe up.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I've seen family members do this as well.
It's mad.
But
I think
it's the brain development.
Yeah.
That's one thing I really with social media, that's my biggest worry is that we're talking about like the social implications and stuff, and it's just because people just don't know about how it's affecting their brains. But the brain development stuff, I think, is the most detrimental part. And even us as adults, we are suffering from the effects of social media.
100%.
We're lucky that we have like snippets of what life was like before. So for example, we were able to build up our ideas about community, and we were able to practice real life interactions, and it was central and it was necessary. It had importance. Whereas now you can be the most awkward child as long as you got 2,000 friends online, you got 500 people you play COD with. You don't get to confront that and challenge it and grow. You don't have to, and that's stifling. Like for me, that's one of the children will learn how to do things with practice. So if what they're interacting with is the screen, that's what they're practiced in.
Yeah,
and
they don't even do runouts. Kids don't do runouts nowadays, bro.
No.
They don't play They don't play knock down whoever or knock the neighbor's door because they don't do none of that.
Yeah, I know. It's like quite different times, and COVID's had a massive part to play in this. But even before, the pandemic that we're going through now, I would ask like my students in the classroom, like, what have you guys done over the weekend? And like, I've got 8 students in my class maximum. 7 out of 8 of them would be like, oh yeah, didn't do much, just played on my PlayStation all weekend. And don't get me wrong, you know how you're saying that is now their portal. That's where they communicate with each other, with other people. That's like the equivalent to us playing out and whatever. But it's not playing out. There was something beautiful in, your boy knocking on your door and your mum saying, no, you can't go out. But that's the story.
No, or telling him in school, you have to knock and ask. Otherwise she's going to say, no, I can't ask.
But equally, there was something beautiful about your boy knocking for you, and you were going out and you were going on bike rides.
The buzz.
Like, you're going to the park to play football for hours. Like, and so, I think to round up, I think what's key is that we appreciate that social media and the internet clearly has its benefits. It's clearly the world that we're operating in now, and it's most definitely going to be what our children and their children are going to be using as their form of communication, form to maybe even become wealthy, to even do their jobs, or even to even be educated. They're going to be using that. I think what we have to do, is kind of educate them in terms of like how to manage it, because like you said, our brains, it doesn't have, it might have the capacity, but it's not trained to kind of deal with
certain things.
Being bullied online, or being able to manage having 50 retweets and people are agreeing with you, people are criticizing you, people are bullying you. All of these things where we weren't prepared for, we're still not prepared for, but we know what life was like without the internet. Your child now that's born in 2020 will have no idea what it's like to not have the internet, to not have people judging you based on that picture, to not have your friends judging you on how many likes of friends that you've got at school. That for them is their world, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. But it's also not a terrible thing either. And I think it's about us kind of just like adjusting to that, but also managing that, and managing it as in really being intentional with like, how do we make sure this doesn't become our only personality? How do we make sure that we do know how to communicate with people outside of this? How do we make sure that we're able to speak to our friends on the phone, in person, as well as be able to communicate through WhatsApp or in your DMs? I think it's having more of a wholesome approach. So yeah, go on, Ad.
I just wanted to say one thing. I would say put a priority on doing things in person. I think that's one thing that would just really help. It might be hard to say cut off all the online stuff.
Yeah.
If you're doing it and it might be necessary, fine, but put a priority on doing things in person. Go sit and have a coffee with someone in person, or have a good time with someone and go watch that movie, even if you're not talking to each other, but experience those positive feelings in person as well. So it doesn't just feel like you're just getting it online. Yeah.
And similarly, be intentional with your children. You know, there's play dates. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but relying on your child to just go into their room and play on the PlayStation or Xbox because they're happy and they're occupied. There's something they might get from that. But what else could they be getting from you? Maybe driving over to a friend's house or to your sister's house and letting them play with their cousins, taking them out to the park. It's those little things that I think we're losing little by little, but it will become a bigger deal, a bigger situation, I think, in the next 10, 20 years when we see more suicide rates, when we see more antisocial children. Actually antisocial children though, not children that are hyper, but actually antisocial, don't know how to communicate. But yeah, anyway, I think it's been a very good discussion. I think there's a lot of things we got into, and again, you know, something else I think we can explore in more detail in the future. But thank you anyway for listening to today's episode. We have had again Mike, we've had myself, Manny, we've also had Ade here with you. I hope you've taken away some key points, some gems. And again, if you are interested in using some of our products on the Goodman Factory website, again, please use the use the discount code. I'm stumbling over my words today. What's happening? Baby brain. Please use the GPod1 discount code on all of our products to be able to get a discount. I said that beautifully. I'm happy with myself. But yeah,
Baby
guys,
doesn't go, by the way.
Have a good evening or a good morning if you're listening to this, and we shall see you soon on the next Goodman Factory podcast episode. Take care.
Check
Bye.
it out.